Chapter 12. This is crazy, Sean cried. He jumped to his feet and grabbed my arm. Violet, what are we going to do? Jack the Knife tossed back his head and laughed, his brown eyes rolling around like marbles. I brought my face close to Sean's and whispered, "Come on, we're out of here." I gazed around the room. The explosion had scattered the jack-in-the-boxes all over the floor. I turned and started toward the door. But wait, it wasn't on the same wall. Somehow the room was all turned around. A heavy fisherman's net was draped over the door. That definitely hadn't been there before. How could this be? I couldn't contain my fright. I opened my mouth and screamed, "Uncle Jim! Uncle Jim! Can you hear me?" The pirate's grin didn't fade. "He can't hear you now, my girl." I swung back to Jack. "Who are you?" I cried in a trembling voice. "What do you want?" "You have to let us go," Sean added almost in a whisper. The pirate raised his arm and rubbed his mustache with the curled part of his hook. He lowered his gaze to the floor, and his eyes moved from box to box. "Where are ye, mates?" he boomed. "Rise and shine, me hearties! Rise and shine, everyone! Are ye sailors or are ye lazy sons of a sea tortoise?" I heard a rattling sound, and then, pop, pop, pop. Boxes jumped and skittered across the floor as they popped open, one at a time. To my shock, the little puppets Sean and I had seen sprang up. They sprang up chattering, with tinny voices that rang off the walls and low ceiling, all talking at once. And as they talked, they began to grow. Like Jack the Knife, they rose from their boxes, swinging from side to side on their springs. Their heads and bodies appeared to inflate, and their clothes stretched to fit them. "Reporting for duty, Captain." "Aye, aye, sir. Top of the morning, mates. Time to ride the white water waves." Their voices deepened as they grew taller. Sean and I froze in horror as they stepped out of their little boxes, their boots clattering on the floor. The chimpanzee in a white sailor suit, the two-headed sailor, the blonde woman with the long pigtails down her back, a pirate with a parrot on his shoulder. "Welcome, mates!" Jack shouted, spreading his arms in greeting. "We sleep no more! The time for action has arrived!" The grown figures each tossed an arm into the air and cheered. The chimp made a hooting sound and bounced up and down on his hairy bare feet. The two-headed sailor stepped forward. He was tall and thin, and his sailor suit was baggy. It was much too big for him, but he had green suspenders to help hold his pants up. His heads were identical. They were completely bald and had tiny black eyes over beak-like noses. "Must be good weather for sailing," one head said. "We don't need good weather to sail," the other head replied. "Yes, we do." "No, we don't. The weather is important to a sailing man." "No, it isn't." Jack the Knife stepped up and poked his hook onto their chest. "Easy, me hearties. We're not the ones to be sailing today." He turned to Sean and me. "The one on the left is Salty McGee, a good sailing man if ever there was one. The one on the right goes by the name Pepper McGee. You won't find anyone better than Salty and Pepper." The other sailors all shouted agreement. The chimp hooted again. "Easy, Chuckles," Jack told him. I've got a banana for you if you behave. Chuckles grinned and bounced up and down. Jack turned to the woman sailor. Her big, dark eyes darted back and forth nervously. "And how are ye today, Mad Madeline?" Jack demanded. She tossed back her blonde pigtails. "Go squeeze a frog and see if it burps," she replied. Jack laughed. "Mad as ever, aren't ye, Madeline?" She sneered at him. "Can you swallow a flounder without choking on it? I'd like to see you try." Jack's smile faded. "Madeline, can you curtsy to your leader?" She put her lips together and made a rude sound. Some of the others laughed, but they stopped when Jack turned and scowled at them. I realized my whole body was shaking. I took a deep breath and tried to sound calm. "Nice to meet you all," I said. "But my brother and I have to leave now." "Well spoken, me girl," Jack replied. "But that isn't in the stars." "In the stars?" I said. "What do you mean?" "Sean and I have to go. Our Uncle Jim will be here any minute." "Yes, he'll be looking for us," Sean added, huddled close to me. Some of the sailors laughed at that. "Their uncle is looking for them," Salty McGee said. "No, he isn't," Pepper McGee replied. "We have other plans for you," Jack the Knife said, rubbing his cheek with the tip of his hook. "Dangerous plans, don't you know?" "Tusk, Tusk, my uncle was a walrus," Mad Madeline said. "Did you ever meet my Uncle Wally?" "No, please," I pleaded. "Listen to me. We have to go back to our uncle. Right now." Then Sean and I cupped our hands around our mouths and started to scream. "Uncle Jim! Help us! Uncle Jim! Hurry!" Some of the sailors laughed again. The chimp in the sailor suit scratched his head and grinned so wide I could see his pink gums. Jack shook his head, pretending to be sad. "A pity. The old Admiral can't hear you," he said. "You see, he's not in a place where he can hear you." I stared at him. "What do you mean? Where is our uncle?" The pirate lifted a box off the floor and handed it to me. "Go ahead, missy. Turn the crank." "Don't do it," Sean urged. Jack the Knife stood over me. He had his hook raised in front of his chest. "Go ahead. Turn it. Let's hear the pretty music." He motioned to the other pirates. "Let's all sing along, mates." "No," I stuttered. "I don't want to." A low growl escaped Jack's lips. He lowered his hook to my shoulder and pressed it against me. "Turn it, missy." Ow! I had no choice. I held the box in one trembling hand and began to turn the crank on the side. The music plunked, and the pirates all sang along with it. All around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought 'twas all in good fun. Pop goes the Admiral. The lid flew open, and a large white-haired figure in a white sailor suit and cap came shooting up. It bounced crazily around on its spring. I gripped the box in both hands, brought it close to my face to steady it, and screamed, "Uncle Jim!"